LiberalViewer presents.
So this interesting story that was played over on ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos, they talked about how the state of Washington is about to institute marijuana legalization, and then they tried to look back at those 6 months of marijuana legalization in the state of Colorado. And it's interesting to me because they started with this clip of Reefer Madness where that scare tactic movie about marijuana from, was it the 20s or the 30s? And the clip they show is how marijuana caused this person to murder his family with an axe. But then they ended up actually showing clips where people are claiming marijuana legalization in Colorado has been linked to murders, but then they wouldn't give any credence to the clip of or the people who are pro-marijuana who say it's actually lowered crime. And they also had this weird reference to marijuana poisoning, which I don't think really exists, and I'll discuss all that after I show this clip here.
He's ready. Depending on who you ask,
we think the whole world's watching right now.
Colorado's legal marijuana experiment was either going to bring a harmless new gold rush or plunge the state into reefer madness.
Under the influence of the drug, he killed his entire family with an axe.
$9.07. 6 months since the first ever recreational pot shops opened here, Colorado is finding out what's working and trying to fix what isn't.
$60.
So far this year, recreational marijuana dealers have raked in nearly $70 million, giving the state $11 million in new tax revenue. Tourism isn't suffering either.
The government still makes a lot of money off of arresting people for this where I live.
Half of Linda Andrews' customers come from out of state.
So we're constantly seeing people that are so excited just to be here because they come from some place that it doesn't exist.
But with the good comes the bad.
Police found a receipt inside the home for pot purchased just 3 hours before the shooting.
2 deaths, including one alleged murder, have been linked to overdoses of edible marijuana mixed into cookies and candy, prompting new, stricter labels and packaging.
Very good.
Dr. Sam Wang says last year 8 kids showed up at the Children's Hospital emergency room with marijuana poisoning. This year, already a dozen.
When the people decided they wanted to decriminalize marijuana, I think one of the things that people didn't entirely think about was kind of some of these public health concerns.
Then there are the banks. Businesses can't open accounts because the federal government still considers pot illegal.
So while we are legal, we don't always feel entirely legal.
Heavily armed private security firms are thriving.
We look for anything suspicious.
Hired to move piles of cash from stores to secret vaults.
We don't like to say how much our clients have in their store.
Pot advocates who argue weed is less harmful than alcohol point out overall crime is down, though any connection to marijuana is hazy.
The system of regulation is actually safer for the public than an unregulated black market.
They've been closely watching in Washington state, where recreational stores open this week.
There you go, brother. Thank you.
Hoping to avoid the growing pains felt in Colorado, ganja's ground zero.
So yeah, I thought that was ganja's ground zero. The word ground zero is a little bit threatening, and they said it was kind of hazy whether marijuana had lowered the crime rate, but they seemed a little bit more sure that it was tied to murders and to marijuana poisoning. Although I did notice there is an ICD-9 code for marijuana poisoning, and even the ICD-10, that this coding that they use for medical diagnoses. So, but as I've talked about in previous videos, there isn't really a lethal dose of marijuana. So maybe they're talking about people who just used a lot and got really intoxicated, or I don't know, maybe you can tell me what you think. What is marijuana poisoning if there's no real lethal dose of marijuana? And especially after showing that Reefer Madness clip, why was ABC so willing to link legal marijuana to murder but so hazy on its link to lower crime rates?
YouTube, you decide.